channel. I thought I'd do a bit of a different background today. I've gone for Christmas tree because we're getting in the Christmas spirit. Again, Teddy will be around, so apologies again for any noises. So today I thought I would do the first section of my labour story. First section being Ivy's labour. If you want to hear Teddy's as well, I can do that, but I thought it would just be too long to do two labours in one video. I thought I would start just before labour and then go from there until she was born. My memory is a bit fuzzy on it. Obviously it's nearly 3 years ago now. She's going to be 3 on the 3rd, which is next week. I can't believe it. So yeah, trying to remember the timings is quite difficult, but I've tried to do it as best I can, but it's kind of like a rough estimate. Are you touching my chair? Stop touching my chair. Okay, so with both pregnancies, I had a big issue with reduced movements by the end of my pregnancy, and this was down to both times my placenta sort of shutting down, sort of giving up, which was really helpful. So with Ivy, I had reduced movements quite frequently for about 2 weeks prior to the birth. I went in pretty much daily, if not every other day, for monitoring, which if you've ever had to do monitoring, it is so boring, and you're just laying there on the bed for about an hour, and then if you don't have any movements, then you have to move onto your left side and then do that for an hour. In between that, so not even like worrying about the baby and everything like that, we were spending so much money on the car park, and again, you do everything you need to do to have the monitoring done because it's important, but every time we were spending like £10 on the parking, and if you have to go every other day, it gets so expensive. But I don't think Ivy's topped Teddy's. I think when we were in for Teddy Rose's birth, we ended up spending over £100 just on the parking alone, which is just ridiculous. By the 2-week point of monitoring, me and Damon were really fed up. So we asked for an appointment with the doctor, just to see what our options were, really. More so for the fact of, if we keep having all these reduced movements, something doesn't seem right, so we wanted to get checked. So we waited for the doctor, and they gave us a scan to have like a growth scan and see how she was growing, and she was quite small, so she wasn't growing like on the line where she should have been. But actually when she was born, she was a perfect size. She wasn't too small, wasn't like anything, she was perfect size, so that was fine, but she wasn't growing according to her chart, and I think that was mainly because the placenta had kind of just given up and she wasn't getting her nutrients, so we didn't want her to then reverse and get smaller, which was why the doctor decided at 38 plus 9 that we were going to be induced. So on the 39th week, which was Friday the 1st, sorry, that's really hard to say, Friday the 1st of December, we went in at around 10 o'clock to be induced, and first time mum. First time mum over here thought, oh, I'm gonna be in here for like an hour, push out a baby and go home. No, sadly inducing is a slow process, and it's boring and it's really long. So at 10:30 a.m. roughly, could have been more towards 11. I had a pessary put in, so sorry any men that are watching, but generally majority of the time it's women watching labour videos. But basically this is like pretty much a tampon, but it hurts more to be put in. So that was put in at around 11 a.m. on the Friday morning, and then the lady turned around to me and said, right, so that's going to stay in there for 24 hours. And you should have seen me and Damon's face. We were like, excuse me, what? I thought you were literally gonna like give me this baby now. But no, that's not the fact. So we had the pessary. Every 4 or so hours the midwives would come round to give us like a little observation, put us on the monitor for a bit, but nothing was happening. I was having slight twinges, like contractions every 5 or so minutes, but they weren't strong, and I knew they were nothing really like important. They were just like slight niggles. So we waited 24 hours onto the Saturday morning, and at around 10:30 the pessary was removed, and I was like, right, okay, what are we gonna do now? Let's get this thing moving. And they put another pessary in. So that is another 24 hours that is meant to stay in for. And honestly, at this point, I was so fed up. I couldn't see any changes happening. The contractions weren't really going anywhere. And I was just like, well, what's the point of me being here? I might as well just be at home. So we waited throughout the day, every 4 hours, got checked, nothing was really happening. And then suddenly at around 5 p.m, I think, roughly, not 100% sure, I went to the toilet, and again, TMI everyone, but I realised that I'd lost my mucus plug. So when you lose your mucus plug, this generally means your body's pretty much ready for labour. So that was a really good sign. I literally ran around with this bit of tissue, like trying to find a midwife, being like, look, I'm ready, like this means something, blah blah blah. And then the midwives came round, checked me over and said, yeah, basically you've dilated to around 2 centimetres. Now obviously you've got to get to 10 centimetres, so 2 centimetres is still not very long and still very short. So I had a long way to go, but it was still something. So they decided they would take the pessary out and then see how I went, and they were going to just wait for me to get a space on the delivery ward to then see what my next steps were. So I was still having slight contractions at this point, but again, really nothing major. So I needed to think of a way of like getting my body ready, and they said walking up and down the stairs. I'm gonna see if I can get Damon's video that he took when I was doing this in the hospital. But basically, I don't know how many times I walked up and down the stairs, but it was a lot, and I just went up and down, up and down, up and down, and basically this was just to help her head engage properly and just kind of come down a bit. So yeah, after walking up and down the stairs for about an hour, my mum came to the hospital with some pizza and some snacks, just to get my energy up, and just plus the hospital food. No offence to the hospital food, but it's not great, and they don't provide food for partners either. So Damon at this point hadn't really eaten very much. So And we also didn't see anything happening for a while, so we thought, oh, it's fine. We can get Mum to come along and bring us some food. And then me and Damon had the discussion while Mum, I don't know where she was, I think she'd gone off to find maybe a cup of tea or something. And Damon kind of just looked at me and went, do you not want your mum here with you? And I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, we're fine. I'm fine just having you. That's fine. And she went, he went, are you sure? And I said, you're a bit nervous. Do you want her to stay? And he was like, yeah. I think I could tell he was nervous. I was nervous too, but I think seeing the person that you love in pain and not knowing what to expect is scary. So we asked Mum if she wouldn't mind staying, and obviously she didn't mind at all. She rang my dad up and was like, so I'm not coming back, I'm gonna stay here and just be here with them, and that was fine. And then I don't know how long after, but they decided that it was time for me to move on to the delivery suite. So this was really good news. Obviously this was the place I was going to give birth, so that must mean it was going to happen anytime soon, but I was wrong. So they checked my dilation and I was still only 2 centimetres, so it was a bit of a knock. I was expecting to be 4-ish and just hoping, but anyone else who's been through labour will know it doesn't happen quickly. It takes a long time, and well, for some people it's ridiculously quick, but dilation when your body's not actually ready. So obviously I was induced, so my body wasn't ready for the labour. But they decided that they were able to break my waters because I dilated just enough. So that was really good, and that meant that the contractions should really boost up. So I had my waters broken. That was a really weird sensation. It doesn't hurt, it's just strange. So they put they have this hook on a stick pretty much, and they break your waters by just tearing the water sac, and it just feels like you are just weeing yourself all over the place. So it's quite strange. Yeah. After having my waters broken, my contractions sped up and they got stronger, but they weren't strong enough really to the midwife's liking, to my absolute despair. So I thought, oh, this is quite painful, surely this is doing something, but they said, no, you should be in quite a lot more pain by now. So that was great. So they decided to put me on a hormone drip. I think the hormone that goes into you is oxytocin, which is known as the love hormone. Get your body wanting to push, I think, and just wanting to contract. Don't hold me to that. I think. What? So in comes one midwife, and I was just petrified. I hate needles, believe it or not, but I absolutely hate them. I'm terrified of them. Younger, I'd had a catheter to put in, but they're nicer to children, and they put numbing cream on me, and that was great. But this time, no, they didn't put numbing cream on me. So they firstly started in my inner elbow, which I have really good veins, but apparently not today, when they wanted to put something into my arm. And they were stabbing me, trying to get this needle into me, and it was just not working. This was the only time I cried during labour, and through all the contraction pains, nothing made me cry, but trying to get this catheter drip in that made me cry a lot. So this first lady, I believe they only get 2 goes each, or maybe 3 goes, I can't remember. But yeah, they get a certain amount of tries, and then once their tries are over pretty much, then you're on to the next person to try again. So the first lady, she couldn't get in, she was really trying, bless her, but she was like, your veins are wobbly. So I don't really know what that is, but I'm pretty sure it just means the needle couldn't go in a straight line long enough to sit into my skin. So in comes a man this time, and I'm like, oh, he looks like a really experienced doctor, he's gonna be able to do it. And then this time they were trying in my I think in my left hand. His goes were up, he couldn't get it in. I was just so fed up, crying my eyes out. Damon was thinking, what the heck is going on? I thought these people were experienced. And then finally this last lady came in. She was really lovely, started talking to me about Glastonbury and just really engaged with me, which I think is really good. Okay. And she managed after the first try, so she did 1 try and she couldn't do it, and then finally the second try she got the catheter in my arm and we could start the hormone drip. And I think actually out of all the stuff that went on throughout that labour, getting that IV line put in was definitely the most traumatic thing, and it always sits in my head and I can remember that more than anything else. And it was scary, and it puts me off having like blood tests done. I get a bit freaked out thinking that it's not going to go right, but I think if I can go through that I can probably get any sort of injection done. After that they started the hormone drip, and they do it on different levels and different milliliters, I think, I'm not really sure. So this is when my contractions really, really started. And if anyone else has had an induction, so I've never had a natural birth, so I'm not sure what it's like to go into labour naturally, but I've heard that basically with an induction your pains go from 0 to 100 in like 2 minutes flat. So I all of a sudden couldn't walk, I was in agony, and I was just like breathing through these contractions. I remember just staring at the clock and just trying to breathe through by watching the second hand just like go round, but it was hard. And I wasn't having a break in between my contractions, so that by this point they realised they'd probably put too much of the hormone drip in, so then they put it back down to let my body sort of relax a bit more. So after a little while I was thinking, okay, I've been strong enough now. I think I've been a big girl for long enough. I think I want some pain relief. The student midwife who I had in there with me said, I think you're doing great. Would you like some paracetamol? And I just looked at her and I said, paracetamol doesn't even fix a headache for me. And at this point I was feeling a little bit nauseous, and I have a real phobia of sick. So I was thinking, I won't be able to swallow these tablets, there's no way. And also I can't drink water, I absolutely hate it. And that was the only drink they were going to give me to swallow these tablets. And I was thinking, I won't be able to do it. And plus, I think it's just completely pointless. So they were trying to give me these paracetamols, and I was like, it's just stupid. I don't want that, I want something else. So they finally gave in and let me have some gas and air. And I was thinking, oh great, I know a lot of people who have been able to cope with gas and air and just do the whole thing on it, so this should be really good. No, it wasn't for me. It made me feel so sick. I had no idea what was going on. I was completely delusional. And I honestly it's like you're really, really drunk, and it's like the bad part of your night out when you're going home and you just want your bed. That's pretty much how I describe it. So I lasted on the gas and air for about 5 or 10 minutes, and I was like, no, I've had enough. I can't take this anymore. I need something else that's not anything like that. So the contractions carried on for a little while, and then by this point, so this is how much time has passed. So I went into the labour suite at about 7 p.m. or 6:30, I think. So it was now 2 a.m. and I was asking for a stronger pain relief, but I didn't want an epidural. I knew for a fact I didn't want an epidural. I was still coping with the contractions, but I was so tired by this point. I hadn't slept for the past two nights really, so I was just really tired and my body just needed to relax. I needed something. So at 2:30 I was given pethidine. Now this injection really does sting. It's quite painful, but once it was done, it took about 10 minutes and my body was just relaxed, and I just remember, and this is where I completely black out. I don't really remember anything else from this moment until the time that she was born. But basically pethidine just completely knocks your body out. For some people, they hate it because they literally just can't remember what they're doing, who they are, anything like that. But for me, it was just amazing. It meant I could sleep in between my contractions and just get that little bit of energy I really needed to push at the end of it, because actually you've got the worst to come, which is pushing the baby out. So by this point I found that nobody else could do anything for me between my contractions. I just had to do it myself. So I sat there with my hands like on my lower back, and I just sort of massaged my own back instead of getting somebody else to do it, but they couldn't do it right, so I had to do it myself. Through the contractions, breathed through them, watched the clock, counted the seconds, and then as soon as the contraction was done, that was it. I was knocked out again. And between each contraction, I can't remember anything, like completely at all. And then, so an hour went past, and they had said to me at about 2 a.m, I was still only about 4 centimetres dilated at this point, and they said, look, it's still going to probably be about 7 hours. And I was so fed up. I was like, come on, it cannot take that long. But then, so 2:30 I had pethidine. 3:30 I said to the midwife, I need to push. And they've said, and I've had a lot of mothers that I know tell me that the midwife always tells them that they're wrong, and they're like, no, you don't need to push, you're lying. And the same thing happened to me. The midwife was saying, no, this can't be possible, there's no way you can push. And I was like, no, I'm ready, this baby is coming, you need to sort yourself out, put your gloves on, whatever you need to do, like, this baby is coming out. And so after about half an hour of pushing, at 4:07 a.m, Ivy Louise was born, and she was born with her head down, which I think is normal. So she was looking downwards, and she came out, and I was expecting this massive cry, but it was just complete silence. And she just laid there, they passed her to me, and she just laid there and she just looked at me, and she was just like staring into my eyes, and it was just the most magical moment, but also so strange, as I know that majority of babies, they're meant to cry, and I was thinking, is something wrong? Like, what's going on? But the midwife was basically like, where you've had pethidine so close to pushing her out, it's still in her system and she's a bit knocked out. So, but yeah, she was all healthy, all happy. She was born at 6 pounds, 9.5 ounces, which is a really, really good size. Bigger than what I thought she was going to be after they told me that she was going to be small. She had a lot of brown hair, and she was born with blue eyes, which is generally what every newborn is born with, but she kept her blue eyes, the same as Teddy. She kept her blue eyes too, because I have blue eyes, so I think I was expecting that anyway. So once your baby's born, you think, this is done, this is great, the pain is over. But then you have to basically birth out another thing. So they said the placenta's got to come out now, and we spoke about this before, so it's not like a surprise. but they'd asked me before if I wanted to give birth to my placenta naturally and kind of let it happen, but this could take a few hours pretty much, or I could have an injection put into my leg which would just produce like the contractions again to make the placenta come out. And I was like, I'm done sitting in this position, I go home now, so please just stab me with this injection. So I got given the injection, and the placenta was out really quickly. It doesn't really hurt at all, especially not after the pain that you've just been through. And yeah, I had a baby at that point, and then I was like, blimey, now I've got to look after her. But she's nearly three, and she's still going, so I must be doing something right. I was really fortunate. I had no stitches, I had no tears, I literally grazed, and that was it. I found the worst part of the healing process, which took the longest, was actually the fact that because I wasn't breastfeeding, I was just leaking just ridiculous amounts, and no amount of breast pads would stop the leaking coming through, so my tops were just soaked, and that was probably the worst thing for me. But once after, took about 2 weeks, and then once that stopped, everything was fine again, and we were living happy life. Okay. Little did I know I was going to be doing it 2 years later again. But yeah, so that was my labour story. A little bit rough around the edges, as again, it was a long time ago now, and it's hard to remember when you're quite drugged up and you don't really know what's going on. So yeah, but if you have any questions, if you're about to give birth, if you're thinking about having children in the future, put them down below and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. But one thing to note is everyone's labour is really different. Both my labours between my 2 children will be really different. So even between 2 children but being the same person giving birth, it just shows, yeah, it's never the same. And just because somebody might have dilated really slowly, you could dilate really, really quick. You just never know. And you just got to do it. And once it's done, and you are given the best gift in the world. So it's all worth it once it's over. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it'll be quite a long one, and I apologise for this one and her noises, because she's been a bit noisy, haven't you? I'm pulling my hair. But yes, if you liked it, please give it a like, and if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it, and you'll see some more of this little one soon.